Good afternoon. I know it's late for this conference and for this day, and it is either late or very early when it comes to early adoption in what we consider the real-time web, and what my expertise is mobile. So I'm going to first pose a question for us. Are we in the early days of mobile? I am a mobile marketing chief marketing officer for a mobile marketing leader called Hipcricket. And often I ask the question, when was the first mobile device created? A lot of times people will say it's the Motorola Dynatec that came out in 1983. You probably remember in Wall Street, Michael Douglas made this famous. People call this the brick phone, and it's still used as a prop. But I've been around longer, and if you ask me, am I an early adopter? I remember the first wireless call being made in 1965. There was a man who needed to get out of trouble, and what he said was, "Sorry about that, chief." This was 1965. So I am here to tell you that 47 years later, we have moved to what I call from the Get Smart era to the Get Smartphone era. And I'm one of those who lives that life. I carry two devices. I carry a BlackBerry, I carry an iPhone, and I do the typical things that probably folks in the room do. I go on Facebook, I go on Twitter. I'm a guy, so I check the weather about 16 or 18 times a day. And I also check my flight status, knowing full well that a flight is going to be delayed. And these are the things that I've done, that I do. I also get into the craziness of trying to burst bubbles within 30 seconds on an app. But we all know that apps don't have a lot of longevity in most cases. But what I'm here to talk about are the use of phones. And as you know, we have feature phones and so-called smartphones. But it is my opinion, and really what the gist of this talk is, are that when it comes to the consumer's device in one's hands, what we really are looking at are megaphones. So first, let's back up a little bit and talk about what's happening out there in the business world. I believe that we're in a situation where we're seeing more disservice than service. And I back it up by a couple of statistics. First one is that 2/3 of those in an Accenture survey say that they have walked away from a brand because they have not been satisfied with what they've seen. And about 80% have bolted from a transaction because they've been frustrated either on the phone, in a store waiting for something to happen that didn't happen that way. I think that it's pretty common. It wasn't all that surprising that these were the statistics that these great organizations like Accenture and American Express found. So what I'm here to talk about is what I call moments of trust. It's a concept that I have been talking about for 10 years, long before feature phones, long before the real-time web came into existence. And these are, quickly, to put it in a summation, touch points that make or break a brand. These are those critical interactions between a brand and a consumer. And it is my opinion that moments of trust impact brands, sales, and loyalty. And that we now have a new dynamic where a consumer has in his or her hand an ability. It used to be the adage was that you could change public opinion in 2 hours. I used to be a reporter. That's what we all used to think. It is now closer to 2.5 seconds when somebody has an ability to broadcast their likes, their dislikes. So I had this idea, but first I want to briefly talk about what people are doing with their devices. Well, as you know, folks are never too young or never too old to use a mobile phone. These are cute kids, representative of probably your kids, your grandkids. They are using iPads when I used to use an Etch-a-Sketch. They are playing with a smartphone. They know more about the iOS on or the operating system on a smartphone than you or I do. And conversely, we have folks like my 81-year-old mother-in-law who uses a Kindle, and she has her eye on my iPhone. She's looking to get one of those as well. And this great story on the right-hand side, this woman who's 100 years old, this made it on the news. She had never used a computer, and she used an iPad for the first time to get into the technology age. So, mobile phones are within 96% of penetration and within 4 feet of us all day long. So what I decided, which is obvious, is that there's a new dynamic in in the retail space, in brands and consumers. So what I did is I commissioned a poll. I looked at a representative sample of phone users. About 34% were smartphone users, and the rest were feature phone users, or so-called dumb phone users, although in my opinion they're all megaphones. And that's representative of what the share is in the US, so I was happy with those numbers. And here's what I found. What do people do at these so-called moments of trust? Well, the first thing is that 40% of people post negative experiences to their social networks. And I'll show you in a minute how they do it, be it Facebook or Twitter. So that's a pretty high number, 40%. How many people conversely do it for positive experiences? Well, 46%. I think this is good news in that I know that I will see a friend was saying, hey, get down here, there's something happening, there's a great sale, there's a great experience, come on down. How do these people do it? What is the communication vehicle? Well, 18% use Facebook and about 8% use Twitter. And these numbers may or may not be seem low to you, but again, this is a representative sample of what we have in the universe, with about a third of mobile phone users in the US having a so-called smartphone. About 34% have viewed a post from those in their social networks, either on Facebook or the like. And about 48%, about half the people in my survey, said that they would be influenced by something that they saw by somebody that they trust. About 32% have texted, which makes a lot of sense. Text is ubiquitous. It's on just about 100% of handsets, and about 70% of consumers of all ages text on a regular basis. And the last couple of things, 10% have heard from a brand, and 36% or 35% are waiting to hear from a brand. So quickly, I'm going to ask the question, are we in the time of new business or old business? What's your clout score? I will tell you, I had an experience with Comcast, a very frustrating experience. I made 2 phone calls to them. I'm a longtime customer, a bundle customer, and they would do nothing for me. I went to Twitter. I went to Comcast Cares. What they did is they exceeded my expectations, because probably they'd looked to see how many followers I have on Twitter. Conversely, that same week, I went to a restaurant with my wife. I had an experience where I asked for fish medium well. It came to me medium rare. This restaurant said, let me take care of this. They took the fish back into the kitchen. They brought me a salad while my wife was eating, so she wouldn't eat alone. They brought me a new piece of fish. They brought us desserts, and they waived the $38 fee for that fish. So I asked the question, are we in new business or old business? I will tell you that, in my opinion, customer service yesterday is the same as customer service today or customer service tomorrow. In any era, it's all about how you're treated. On American Airlines, I experienced a flight attendant come row by row, seat by seat, and say, thank you for your business. It was a memorable experience that I've repeated probably 250 times. So what should we do as marketers with all of this information? Well, I think we need to take a critical look at what's happening in our business. We need to take a look in the mirror and measure what's happening. We need to change with the times, like Nordstrom is doing, bringing new media, new technology in to make a great customer service experience even better. We need to celebrate or mitigate. This woman who delivered on American Airlines should be saluted, and the people who don't deliver should be rid from our organizations. What's next? Really quickly, I'm running out of time. Very simply, more photos being posted, more videos being posted in a nanosecond, more young kids. His birth was probably captured on an iPhone, posted to YouTube. He is the one who's going to influence brand experiences. And with that, I know I went through a lot of information. I thank you. You can look at my site if you want to capture the stats. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeff.